Okay, hello everyone and welcome back. So today it's gonna be a pretty more or less quick video tutorial. This video is basically how I made a passcode system inside of Unreal Engine, where you have to actually use your keyboard in order to input a passcode. I'll show you the piece of code in action, and then I'll show you how got it done, and I'll break down step by step the process I did in order to achieve this effect. So first, without further ado, let's play the game and I'll show you it in action. So if I go up to this, it says use keyboard to input code, and when I input the key code and get it right, it does something. Perfect. Great. So this code is actually a little bit simple, but it can get a little bit complex. So the first thing I want to do is I want to actually break down how this code works. I'll quickly show you the blueprint, but I think in order to get a better gist of how this works, I will actually do everything step by step. But what I will do for you is I will actually have a link in the video to the time on the timeline where I show the full blueprint. And if you want, you can just jump to that. But if you want to understand how and why this works, I suggest sticking through the entire video. So first, I'm going to show you how this blueprint works. So this blueprint here runs by using all the stuff here. Now, it might look a little bit complicated, but it's actually simpler than you think it is. So this first one bit right here is my initializing script. Since this script is tied into the game I actually made, there's a lot of stuff here that you may or may not understand, and it's also not important to this particular tutorial. So in the process of showing you how this works, I'm gonna take out the stuff that you don't need to know, because a lot of the stuff in here is really just tied to my game and how to make my game run properly. A link to that game will also be in the description below. So the main thing it does is you can actually ignore these first three things. So this stuff here, you don't need to care about. The main thing this does is I have a simple blueprint here where I have all my text input here. And what it does is when the game starts, I'm going to set the visibility of this text, the input hint, which is this piece of code right here with the text here. I set that to be false. And I also set the plane, which is my green display, to be false as well. I'll turn those on as needed, but I won't, since I don't need it, right off the bat, I'm not going to have them on. I have a script to initialize my code, which will be actually very important. The main important thing is this can start, you don't really need to care about. What you do need to care about is this right here. And then I have a couple overlaps to show my text. So when I'm overlapping with the sphere, the text will be visible. When I'm not, it won't be visible. And then over here is the meat of the code. And it's a lot here, so I'm actually going to break down the process for how I got this code working. So you'll be able to see how the process for how I got the code working, and in the video I'll also share with you the full blueprint that I made for this script. Alright, so without further ado, I'm going to get started on the basics of this script. Okay, so with this script right here, first we'll take a look at the actual blueprint itself that I made. Now in this blueprint, I made a bunch of different public variables that I can access inside of the game, because since I'm more of a visual person, more so than uh, a coding programming person, I like to be able to actually like modify my code on the fly when I'm working in the game. This is actually very useful because you don't want to have to manually adjust your code for each different level. You want to be able to your code to be versatile, so that all you have to do is you have to make it once, put it into the game, and then you don't have to worry about it at all after that. So I made mine pretty versatile, whereas I have a array that has a key code array where I can input the different key code commands, and I also have a check to say, hey, am I using a six key input or 8 key input? For this game, I typically use 6 keys, but this can be expanded on very easily to be 8, 10, 12, whatever have you. It can even be 3 if you want to make it simple. So, that's how this works. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to actually walk you through the process of how I even made this script. Now, the first thing I did was, when I came up with this idea for making a script, I had an issue. My issue was, how do I make it so that my game controller or my character can pick up my keyboard inputs in game? So basically, what I had to do was I had to just look around, poke around the internet, and find anything that could tell me how I can at least recognize a keyboard input inside my game from the keyboard. And so I had a couple of different ideas, but basically what I did was I kind of just scoured online and found out about this little function node here. And I'll show you it inside of here. Scouring around, I found out about this was input key just pressed, and the target is the player controller. And so when I discovered that this node even existed, I was like, okay, this node exists. Let me see if I can actually manipulate this and just test out, hey, can I just make sure that this actually works? I just want to make sure I can get the key and make sure it works. So what I did was I basically just started off by right clicking, blueprint class, and I made an active blueprint. And I will call this passcode, like that. Inside of this active blueprint, I basically did 2 things. I added in a sphere collider, and I made it big, and I'll adjust it in here. I'm going to add in an object so I know where my collider is. And basically what I did was I just tried to access the key. And so the first thing I did, I'm like, you know what, let me try this on event begin play. So I'm going to drag out here, and I type was input. Oh, already have a problem. I don't see it. So what I found out was, in order to access this was input key just pressed, you can't just right click as you normally do, because you'll get what's just recently rendered. You'll get everything but what you want. The reason why you can't access this node is because it's tied to the player controller. And so what you have to do is you have to first find your player controller. So let's get the player controller, like that. Now when I have the player controller and I drag off of the player controller, I can now search was input key just pressed, like this. Cool. And since I'm just checking to make sure it works, I just put in the key. I'll do the 1 right here. So I'm just going to check and see if the key 1 was pressed. And now what I'll do is I'll do a branch, a simple true or false statement. And if that key was pressed, I want you to do a print string. Print string is great for just testing to see if code works. I use this all the time when I have a problem with my code, and I need to narrow down exactly what the problem is, or where in my code the problem is happening. Alright, so, haha, I don't see anything. Reason for that is I forgot to drag it in. Alright, so here's my cube, and it's supposed to be when the game begins, it's gonna check and see who pressed the key. So right now I'm currently pressing the 1 key and nothing's happening. Also, you can ignore that countdown. That's for my game. It's not important. for you. So when I pressed the key, nothing happened. So I was like, huh, that's weird. This should be working. And then I realized that this event begin play only happens when the game begins once. And so if I'm trying to check for if my key was pressed and it only checked once if it was pressed when the game began, it's not necessarily going to work. And so what I have to do is I have to do two things. The main thing I have to do is I have to basically, instead of doing it on event begin play, I do it on, I'm going to break that link, event tick. And I have to reconnect everything because I broke all the links. And so now, I play the game, I press 1, it says hello. Like that. So now we know that works. That's really the first part of the code, and that's the main thing you need to know, is how you can make sure that the input key is recognized in game. So with that done, I'm going to jump to the second part of this video. Now the second part of the video is we said, okay, so we know this works. Now how can I make it interactive, make it visually appealing, and make it so that I can just drag it into my game once and it'll keep playing no matter what. Well, it'll keep working no matter what. So I'm going to show you that right now. But since it's saved, this would be a good time for a break.